Is it morning still? Yes. Good morning. Very pleased to be here with the distinguished Majority Leader of the Senate, Harry Reid, and the distinguished Majority Leader of the House, Steny Hoyer. We just had, I think, a very productive and constructive bipartisan meeting with the President of the United States. We congratulated him on his success with the New START Treaty, and with the Nuclear Security Summit that was held in Washington, D.C. We're very proud of his leadership in that important regard and hope that it will have bipartisan support. We talked about jobs, jobs, jobs. The President gave us the economic impact of the American Recovery Act third quarterly report. And I myself would like to say that one comment on it from Mark Zandi, who was the economic advisor to Senator McCain's campaign, said, when you take it all together, the response to the recession was massive, unprecedented, and ultimately successful. And so again, we thank the President because at least 2 million jobs were created or saved by the recovery package. And in this week of April 15th, as we pay taxes, it's important to note that in this recovery package, 36% of the funds were for tax cuts for the American people, largely for America's families, some for America's businesses, and others to create green energy jobs, clean energy jobs for the future. 36% of the recovery package was about tax cuts, much of which will be realized this April 15th. A third issue of discussion, in addition to security, national security, and economic security, is a related issue to economic security, and that is of Wall Street reform. The time has come, is long overdue, for us to end a time where Wall Street thinks that it's okay to nationalize the risk and privatize the gain. They make all the gain, all the profit, and come to the taxpayer to bail them out when things go sour. And so we saw with the health care reform, the Republicans were not willing to rein in the insurance industry. And now we're going to see if they're willing to rein in the financial industry. Not to paint everyone with the same brush, because that wouldn't even be true to do so. But the fact is that we are here for America's working families, and we must put an end and make sure that never again does it happen that recklessness on Wall Street makes people lose their jobs on Main Street. With that, I'm pleased to yield to the distinguished Majority Leader.
First of all, we know tomorrow is tax day, but the American people must be reminded that 98% of Americans got a tax cut last year. I think it's also important to recognize that we have done some good things for the economy, but it's little solace to people who are afraid they're going to lose their home, or have lost their home, or lost their job, or afraid they're going to lose their job. We have done a lot. We have a lot more to do. The economy is getting a little better. It's certainly not out of the woods yet. The discussion in the cabinet room today was pretty interesting. It's obvious that the Republicans are saying no again to Progress for America. They have said no to for everything so far, and this is no change. The Republican leader yesterday on the Senate floor said that he didn't like what was coming out of the Banking Committee. That is to do regulation reform. Well, Chairman Dodd has tried everything. He tried with the ranking member for weeks, no deal. He tried for weeks with one of the members, Republican members, Corker, no deal. We're going to move forward just as rapidly as possible with the bill that Chairman Dodd has brought out of that committee. If the Republicans want to improve it, we're happy to work with them. We want to move forward on this. We have to do it because it's time that we recognize that meeting with hedge fund managers is not the way to solve problems for American people. What we need to do are things that help people on Main Street. We can't have banks that are too big to fail. We have to have consumers that are protected from all these many different financial games that people are playing around the country. And finally, we talked in the cabinet room about nominations. Right now, on the Senate calendar, the Republicans have held up 94 nominations. 94. It's outrageous. People who need to work in this government to make it work better are being held up for no reason, no good reason, not because of qualifications. During the first 2 years of the Bush administration, during his first term, first Congress, 100 circuit and district court judges were approved. President Obama has gotten 18. So we talked about a lot in there. It was a good meeting. I'm glad we had it. But I think the American people must recognize it's difficult to work with the party of no.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader and Speaker Pelosi. It was a candid meeting, and it was a good meeting to that extent. But obviously, the American people are not so interested in meetings as they are in action, and we'll see what action occurs coming forward. The analysis of the Recovery Act, I haven't yet read it. The President had it on the desk as we walked in, but I don't need to read it to know that the American people in November of '08 were angry and concerned about where their economy was, the fact that they had lost over 3 million jobs, the fact that the economy was shrinking, in fact had shrunk during the first quarter of '09 by 6.4%. They elected an administration and a Congress to respond, to try to grow our economy, get jobs back, and we confronted the deepest recession that we've seen in 3/4 of a century. The good news is the economy is coming back. That economy's gone from a 6.4% shrinkage to a 5.4% growth in the last quarter of last year. Employment's gone from losing about 726,000 jobs per month to 162,000 gain last month, and an average gain of 54,000 over the last 3. That is progress, it's not success. We need to do more, and we talked about jobs. That was really the focal point that we brought up, jobs for Americans. And while we've had progress, success is going to be when we start closing that 8 million job loss gap that we saw during the last year and a half from the previous administration. In addition to that, we've seen our stock market grow over 70%, some 65% on the Dow, some 75% with the S&P, and on the NASDAQ over 80%. So we've seen the value of retirement funds for working people come back. But again, we've made success. We've made progress, but not success. We also talked about small businesses being able to access capital so they can expand and create jobs and grow the economy. That is a very important priority for us in the House and in the Senate and on our side of the aisle. We look forward to the Republicans joining with us, both the House and the Senate, to try to grow the economy, continue to grow the economy, bring the economy back, and make sure we get back to a place where we were when, under the Clinton administration, we created 21 million jobs in the private sector, as opposed to less than 2 million, 90% less new jobs in the private sector under the Bush administration. So we want to work together. We want to get America back to work. We want to get Americans where they wanted to be when in '08, angry about the policies of the past, wanted new policies to be in place. We put them in place. They're working. There's more work that needs to be done.
Did this meeting end abruptly, or did it break down? It seems like it went faster than originally planned.
No, actually, the meeting began and ended on the subject of jobs. What you've heard in the meantime, from beginning to end, related to the economic and national security of the American people. But we are hoping that we can get bipartisan support to have Wall Street reform. That's not a partisan issue. We're hoping that many of the things that the two leaders mentioned about job creation and credit for small business and trying to help localities keep teachers on the job, Build America bonds to build the infrastructure of America, summer jobs for our young people. All of these initiatives should have bipartisan support, and we hope it will be soon, and we talked about that as well. But we have, again, when it comes down to what is the difference, the main difference that we came out of there with was, do you want to rein in Wall Street? Are you here for the middle class and working families in America? Are you here to keep the party going for financial institutions who have been reckless, instead of protecting those who have been responsible?
How do you counter the Republican contention that it's just institutionalizing bailouts?
Well, that's a complete